Everybody, I'm Stacy with Stacy's Organizing and Decorating for Life. I am here to help you organize your thoughts and decorate your perspectives. So today our topic is going to be about self-esteem. We're taking a deeper dive into what we talked about last week about the inner child, because many of our inner children did not develop a self-esteem. We developed a false esteem. So this is the false esteem, is us thinking that when we're grown we're just supposed to know things, and so we go off to the learned behaviors. And unfortunately, the learned behaviors didn't examine our feelings. So I'm going to give you 2 tips today on how we can examine our feelings. I'm going to give you a bonus tip on something just a little unrelative, but that it does relate. Everyone's going to have this, and hopefully it can be their mantra, to help them have less pain and strain in relationships, because all these videos have been about relationships, whether it's the relationships with lovers, the relationships with friends, the relationships with family, and then last week the relationship with our inner child. We're going to expand on that and look at self-esteem this week, thinking that we're supposed to know things we don't know, and the evidence that we collect, and the thing is that let me put my glasses on. I make notes all the time, and I have like 3 different papers, here. But we do things a day at a time. When things are going terribly wrong, that could be our evidence. But the thing is it's not going to last forever, and it's going to be a day at a time. So that's what I mean by recovery when I'm talking about that. And then when they're going good, we take things a day at a time, because they're not always going to stay good. That's how we identify things, and that's about how the stories are that we make up, and the energy and the frequencies that we give off of those stories. Some of you know that I work Reiki on people online and also in person, but it's really just energy healing, period. It's not only Reiki, is that I do energy healing work, and what I do is I help people to expand, because we get dysregulated and our rhythm gets off when we have trauma. And the thing is when we have resentments, that's refelt trauma is what that is. And so we have to look back at that. But the problem is in these feelings that our parents, when we started having these feelings as children, if we were afraid, our parents, if we were in trauma, they were afraid too. And no one explained to us what these fears were, what they looked like, and where they were coming from. And so we just took them into our body. And so then when we see something that reminds us of those things, those are called triggers. Or we, experience something that reminds us of those things. Those are called triggers. So, being able to establish our feelings and to nurture that inner child that I talked about last week. If you didn't see that video, please check it out. So, we need to ask that inner child, honey, what are you feeling? What are your feelings? I know that I was a grown-ass adult before I understood what my feelings were, that I had to ask myself, what are you feeling? Because under happy, sad, mad, and glad, and all of that there's ecstatic, I can feel divine. That was something that wasn't in my vocabulary before. I can feel delightful. Things can be delicious. These are things that I didn't really know how to express, prior. But on the other end of that, I could also feel damned. I could also feel distraught. I could also feel in despair. I can also feel all those feelings too. And so those could fall under sad, mad, happy, or glad, but they're more than that. And where did they come from? The problem is as children, our feelings weren't validated, they weren't explored, and they weren't looked at. So if we have to do that for ourselves, we don't just get grown and know these things. We just think we are supposed to get grown. That's what we've been taught as a society, as human beings. But those that expand learn how to have compassion this way. We can have more compassion that way. We're not like this infantilization or infantilized society that people have talked about so much, to where it's just like, I want to be heard, I want to be heard. And everybody's arguing and getting offended because they're not feeling heard. When we have somebody listen to us, we learn the value of listening to somebody else. So if we can practice that with one another, that's really great. And then explore these things, what does this look like? What does that look like? And I know that I've had to do it, and when I was in my life coach sessions and I was trying to revamp my own relationships, from that of, I kept choosing relationships to heal from, like those of my dad, that, he didn't know any better. Being emotionally unavailable. And so when I was talking to my life coach about this, very goddess mother, she says to me, so Stacy, because this is how we do. This is what we're doing with the universe. This is what we're doing when we speak out our truths. Our words are very important. So when we're speaking out our truth, how we speak to our inner child, how we speak to ourselves is a reflection of what's going to show back at us out there. That's sad, is but true. So she said to me, she said, so Stacy, what does a good, healthy relationship look like to you? And I was like, the deer in headlights, because I really didn't know. My parents, my grandparents, it was fighting, or I didn't really know them very well because we had that estrangement with my grandparents too. So I had all this kind of stuff, the intergenerational trauma and the estrangement. And I also had the grief and the pre-birth plans, those things that I talked about last week. And all of this was for my higher education is what I've chosen. Because how we empower ourselves is we realize we have choices and we don't just go on default. So she asked me, Stacy, what kind of relationship do you want? And as I said, I look like a deer in headlights. And she said, well, do you want to be loved and cherished? And I was like, yeah, that's what I want, is I want to be loved and cherished. And she said, well, what does that look like? And I was like, I really didn't know. I love when people ask me questions. Please feel free to email me and ask me questions or put them in the comments below, because nice questions, y'all. But I like that because it does give me cause to think about something, because I wasn't even taught really to think about these things. I wasn't asked these questions really about how did I feel or what did I think or anything like that, because I was in the codependence. When I realized I had codependence, she asked me what I was thinking, how I felt, and I was like, I don't know. So anyway, being asked questions, we can learn a lot about ourselves. It's being brave enough to allow somebody in enough, though, to allow to ask those questions. So we can then explore these things about what we want to feel, what we want to think, and everything else, and be on our own. Because that's how we grow up. So we don't grow up till we're grown up, y'all. So these tips that I have for you, I have two, like I said, and then this bonus one. So the first tip is to be able to identify our feelings, instead of when you're feeling sad, because this is how addictions or disorders come about, or when we ignore ourselves, when we ignore that inner child and these feelings, because we have on one side our ego gets mad, but our soul cries, right? Is that our soul knows what's in our best and highest good for ourselves. So our soul will let us know, and we'll be confused. But when our ego is in control, we are pissed and we get mad. So sometimes we just go from ego and get pissed and get mad, and these stories that I talked about earlier that we make up, we just go off of those stories rather than exploring my feelings. And where did I feel these feelings first? Because this is a refelt feeling probably if it's trigger, and it could be a trigger. So then when we can process, is what we call this, in processing our feelings, we can identify our feelings, and when did I feel this way before? When did I feel abandoned before? Because if I feel abandoned, I'm going to feel sad, but there's something more to feeling sad, right? So it's getting to know ourselves. So if I'm feeling abandoned, where did this abandonment come from? There's many people with attachment styles that are needing to be looked at now. We have attachment styles that also go with that abandonment. So everything has a dig in it, and we can learn more about ourselves. Once we can learn more about ourselves, we can get to the other side of those feelings, to feeling a sense of belonging, to feeling unified. And that's what these videos are intended to promote, is for us to feel, we can watch enough stuff to make us feel divided. But these videos are intended to make you feel united and to help you grow and to realize that we are all just part, and to come from our soul and to honor our soul and to honor the soul in others. So once we can identify our own feelings, we can also listen to another person identify their feelings, and that's respect. So the first thing is identifying our feelings. But look, then we identify our feelings, okay? So I've sat here and processed, and I've identified this is what I'm feeling. But then to be able to verbalize our feelings so that we can honor ourselves and another human being. Because when there's something's wrong with us, so the other person knows, And then that's the thing, is then we have to, we don't have to, but it's good how we communicate and how we can grow in any kind of relationship, is that to being able to express our feelings without blaming somebody or shaming somebody or causing them fault, like we may have been when we were children. I'm not saying that I was, but I know that people that do, that this is a part of it, being blamed and shamed for their feelings. So a lot of people have a fear of expressing their feelings, that they're not going to be heard, that they're going to be blamed or shamed, or what. And at some point in time, we probably all have had those things happen to us, so it causes us to shut down. So what we want to do is to be able to express ourselves, but to express ourselves in a healthy way that honors our feelings, but also honors the other person so that they can get to know us. And this is how we grow our relationships. Okay? So on the other end of that, when we're having failures in relationships, the bonus thing is when we're having failures in relationships, we're having heartbreak, and or sometimes it could be the work relationships. Maybe somebody at work's getting better treatment than us. Maybe we're having jealousy issues underneath that, and that's a part of the jealousy. We may be like, well, sometimes people will be talking about what somebody else gets and they're not, and I'll be like, well, do you think that's jealous? And they're like, oh no, because we've been taught we're not supposed to feel that. That's the green-eyed monster. But if you're feeling it, you're feeling it, and you have to talk about it to heal it. So anyway, staying in my business is my isness. Let that be your mantra if you're struggling or dealing with looking at what other people are doing, getting, being, or seeing, and you're not feeling like you're getting it, or you're feeling afraid that, one of the things is that we as human beings, we're afraid someone's going to get something that we want, or that they're going to take something away that we've got. So staying in my business is my isness. So what is it that's going to honor and respect you? And with that being said, I'm going to let you all go. And I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you do, please like, share, and subscribe. And again, you can reach out to me at stacyreinick@gmail.com. I also have another email address, stacyreneeforlife@gmail.com. I appreciate you all. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you all that have been watching these videos for the couple of years I've been doing them, as well as the new people who are watching, the new subscribers. I thank you so very much, and I love and appreciate you. All right. See you next week. Bye. I wish you much peace and love, first off. Now, bye. Okay.